If you had to sail across the Pacific Ocean tomorrow, would you choose the boat with full navigation instruments, or would you go with the one which is running purely on gut feel? Business works the same way. Your numbers aren't there just for reporting. They're your navigation tools. Your P&L tells you the direction you're heading in. Your balance sheet tells you what resources you have, and your cash flow forecast shows you what's coming up. The difference between these two isn't intelligence or effort, it's visibility. So when you first started out in business, it was like learning to sail all by yourself. You were in a little one-person dinghy with a simple sail, and you could make little mistakes down at a local river, and there was no harm, no foul done when the boat fell over or you fell out or the boat didn't move. The consequences weren't real, and it was fine. You learned how to sail your boat based on trusting your intuition, trusting those gut decisions, reading the elements as you're going along. But now that you've got a bigger business with team members on board and your family dependent on you, and you're not just sailing in the river, it's like a big ship and you're trying to cross the ocean, things are very different now. And if you're still using the old gut feel method, it's time for an upgrade. So let's imagine this scenario. There's two identical boats about to sail across the Pacific Ocean. Identical boats, same size, both with a really experienced skipper on board. But one of those boats has all of the navigation tools. It's getting weather reports. It's got a clear log of what resources are available on board the boat. It's got a clear map of the journey it's going to go on. The other boat has none of those. It's just purely relying on the skipper's gut instinct to get the boat across the ocean. Yes, he's experienced at business, or he's experienced at sailing his boat. He's going to be able to make decisions, but he's ultimately winging it. He's standing on the deck every day, having a look up. What's the weather telling me? Which way should we go today? How am I going to get there? You can ask yourself the obvious question here. Which of these two boats is going across the ocean faster, safer, has a greater chance of success of being actually able to make it to the other side? And crossing a big ocean in a sailing boat is a lot like running a business. It's not some kind of short-term pursuit that you're going to do for the next week or month. It's going to be a long, arduous journey where things are going to come up along the way that you didn't see coming. Storms are going to come at you. Clear weather and perfect sailing conditions are going to happen at certain periods of the time. Just imagine how much simpler that would be as the boat skipper if you could see the weather report for weeks in advance or days in advance. You have a tide chart that lets you know when things are high or low tide when you're navigating through tight areas. You can clearly see how fast we're traveling in the right direction. You've got a compass. You've got a clear log of how much fuel and food and all the resources that are on board with your boat, compared to if you were trying to navigate it without all of those navigation tools and report tools being able to be at your disposal to make decisions so much easier as you're going on this big journey. And you might just be thinking, that's fine, I'll just ring the Coast Guard and ask them for a weather report, or ask them for how do I navigate through this part of the world. And this is a lot like a business owner who's thinking, well, I'll just call my accountant to get help with this decision, or call my accountant to help me say if I can hire this person or move faster. Think about this from the boat analogy. How many times does the Coast Guard want to be called by that skipper? Where am I at today? How fast am I going? Am I heading in the right direction? What's the weather doing tomorrow? That constant reliance on somebody else trying to help that person so they can make decisions, it's draining for everybody involved. What would be far greater is if you, the skipper, just had all of the instruments and dials and forecasts and all those reports and navigation tools at your disposal, at your fingertips, showing you exactly what you need to see in the exact right format so that you can always wake up every morning and make the exact right decision of, is this a fair weather, fast sailing day, or is this a day we need to be hiding for a bay and bunking down for cover? So what are these navigation instruments when it comes to your business? I've got this model here. It's called the finance ecosystem. The purpose of this model is just to show you the three key sets of numbers you need to be across in your business to be able to navigate life as a business owner really well. And you'll see how these relate exactly to the sailing analogy. So we've got three types of numbers in business. That's the first key point to take away. We've got our profit and loss. This is all about how well the business is performing. From a business perspective, this tells us how well is the money-making machine doing, it actually making money, what opportunities are there to improve the business so it can make more money, or what do we need to focus on to be able to grow and scale? And this is kind of like your compass in the boating analogy. It's telling you what direction are we traveling? How well are we performing? Do we need to speed up, slow down? What's coming up in our journey ahead for us? What should we actually be focusing on? This is what's giving us the steering or the guidance in our business. That's what the P&L is all about. Our second set of numbers is, in accounting speak, the balance sheet. And this is all about your financial position. So this is telling you what are all of my assets, what are all the things that I own in the business, and what are all of my liabilities, all the things that I owe to other people in the business. And it's our balance sheet, which at any point in time tells us not only what is our financial position, but like what resources do we have available? And if you imagine this back to the boat analogy, this is kind of like a log of how much petrol do we have on board? How much food do we have on board? Do we have enough resources to go on this next step of the journey? If you're about to face a day of a big couple of weeks of sailing, you obviously need to make sure you've got enough resources to be able to go through that journey. Your balance sheet is letting you know how the business is positioned financially today, and you can use that in your decision-making to decide, can we go on this journey? And then our third set of numbers here, this is our cash flow. And from the business's perspective, we want to be really clear. We want to be forward-looking about what our cash flow forecast actually looks like. This is tracking the cash coming in or out of the business. Cash to a business is like water to the sailing boat. If the boat doesn't have water to sail in, it's not going to go very far. Likewise, your business needs cash to be able to survive. You have to have cash there as and when you need it to be able to pay for things. But in any business, it doesn't matter what stage of business you're in, what industry you're in, your cash flow is going to look like a tide chart or like a roller coaster ride. And there's really good reasons for why cash is always up and down, regardless of your business and what industry or stage it's in. It largely comes down to the cycle timings of different payments going in and out of your bank account. If you imagine there's different things that happen weekly, some things happen fortnightly, some things happen monthly, some quarterly, some annually. Depending on when those cycles are lining up, your bank balance is going to be really, really low if everything's landing in 1 week, and really, really high if not much is going out and it's just a building up time. And this may seem chaotic to you if you're a business owner who's not yet tracking your numbers really well, but cash flow, just like a tide chart, is actually really, really predictable. Once you know the patterns and the cycles at play in any business, it's really easy to put a forecast in place that goes for a really long distance into the future, where we can clearly see the highs and lows weeks and weeks in advance before they ever happen. And so back to our little boating analogy, imagine you're sailing your boat through some pretty tight, tricky waters. You obviously want to have a tide chart at hand. You need to know, is there enough water that we can sail across this section today, or is it low tide and we need to just wait until there's enough water so that we can get there? This is exactly what like a cash flow is going to be like in your business. And if you're running a business without a cash flow forecast, the chance of you running aground or hitting something or running out of water and the boat not working, pretty high. Just like in business, it feels super risky to make decisions when you haven't got that visibility of what your cash balance actually is. So these numbers combined, P&L for performance and direction, balance sheet for overall resource, what's available, cash flow to be able to make quick decisions and navigate our current business position. It's these numbers that are combining that are essentially the navigation tools or the dials for your business. So if we relate this back to our analogy of the two boats crossing the Pacific Ocean, it's clear that one of these boats would seem to have a completely unfair advantage compared to the other one. It's got all of this information, which means it's able to make far better decisions. And if you're the skipper on that boat, you're the leader in your business, of course, you're going to be able to make far better decisions, not only today, but based on what's coming up, how fast we should move. This is where numbers aren't just about reporting, they're actually about leadership in business. Because when you've got financial clarity, you've got the information there, you're so much more confident in making the right decisions every day in your business. It's not something you just come back around to once a year and look at the results and make it. And it really is the unfair advantage for a business owner when you have your numbers working for you. And I think if we reflect on the boat that doesn't have the financial information, imagine what this would be like crossing the Pacific Ocean with none of these tools in place. This is what it's like, unfortunately, for the majority of business owners out there. And this is why if we go and look at the statistics of business failure rates, more than half the businesses never make it 5 years. 75% of businesses never make it 10 years. And when we actually look at why did those businesses fail, 80% of the time, it's financial reasons. It's poor financial decisions that put them under. And I imagine this would be very similar to how many businesses actually make it across the Pacific Ocean with no navigation in place, no forecast in place. I imagine it would be a pretty low success rate, just like the success rate of a business lasting long term without the leader being really confident around the numbers and how to use them to make great decisions within their business. We've put together another video where I walk you through the framework that we use and how this actually starts to look in practice. You can watch that video below.